Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here, Golden Opportunities Coaching. Welcome to those of you who are new. Welcome back to those of you who are seasoned veterans. And what we do around here, we break down emotional and psychological concepts into easy, understandable, and relatable language. Like, subscribe, comment below. We're going to talk about love styles today. Basically, breaking it down from what I've seen over a 13-year career as a coach, there's 4 basic styles of love. What that mean? Well, actually, let's qualify that. 4 counterproductive styles of love. We were talking about strictly the counterproductive ones today. Obviously, I'll do another one on the more productive or progressive styles of love, but the most common ones I see that cause people difficulty and trouble are these 4. So, the avoidant lover is the person who does not want to get hurt, and so they keep their emotions as guarded as possible. These are people that will answer questions. However, the only way they're going to answer a question is if they're directly asked. These are individuals who will not offer information without the proper prompting. So they can be frustrating for you if you're trying to get to know them because you think they're not interested when in reality, you just haven't asked the right question. It's almost like a key combination to a locker, right? They're kind of like waiting for you to hit the right combination to open up, literally. And so when you are struggling to understand this or struggling dealing with a person like this, just think they're avoiding something. They're not avoiding you per se. They're avoiding something that you represent to them. Most often, the opportunity or the likelihood of becoming emotionally injured, mentally or emotionally scarred in some way, let down, having their illusions broken, having their heart broken, having an expectation not met, but they're avoiding the potential conflict or the pain associated with a relationship not going in a proper direction. It can be extremely difficult, especially if you feel you've been extremely open with a person to deal with this personality archetype, but you've got to understand something. If you're dealing with an avoidant person, the only way to counteract that to have a positive outcome is to learn the language that they respond to in comfort and then use that language when you're trying to discover something new about this person. The second negative love type is the pleaser. This is the person who most likely has come out of a physically, mentally, emotionally, or a combination of all 3 abusive relationship. These are individuals who want to avoid conflict at all cost, and they will do things sometimes subliminally, sometimes submissively, oftentimes just on autopilot, emotional autopilot. They'll do things to avoid the conflict that comes from saying no, or avoid the conflict of presenting another alternative, avoid the conflict of feeling your emotions. These people are usually highly sensitive. Some would even say empathic. These people are often worried about 3 steps down the road. They're not worried about what happens with, saying no specifically. They're worried about the impact of what saying no will do to them a week, a month, 3 months down the road as far as the relationship is concerned. So if you're dealing with a pleaser, use qualifiers. Look, even if you don't agree with me, I'm not going to get upset. But if you use that type of qualifier, please actually follow through and don't get upset. If you are dealing with a pleaser, you have to create a safe space for them to provide dissonance or disagreement. Learning to disagree peacefully or amicably is probably, I would say, at least in the top 3, if not the top 2, things that you can do for the benefit of a long-term relationship. If you are a person who's looking for either a marriage or a committed partnership, whatever that looks like for you, and you haven't learned how to disagree peaceably with your partner, I'm going to tell you, sooner or later, you're going to have problems. Because people disagree. They have different worldviews. They have different needs, different goals, different aspirations. And either one of 2 things is going to be true here. You're going to deal with a pleaser Whom feels like it's the lesser of two evils just to give in to you, and then they're going to resent you over time. This may take months or years, but it will happen. Or you're going to deal with a person who's constantly disagreeing with you, and they take personal offense to it because you haven't given them permission to be like, hey, we can agree to disagree on this. Personally, in relationships, I have about 2 or 3 things that are non negotiable. I tell a person what my non negotiables are before we date, like the third time. I don't bring them up the first 2 dates because it's ridiculous. But by the third date, if I think there's a potential to be, exclusive with a person or move something forward, I'm like, hey, these are the things I won't budge on. If that's a problem for you, then we don't need to go any further because I know me. And so you have to figure out what areas of life are your non negotiables before dating, not during. Because if you're figuring them out during, you're going to create tension that doesn't need to be there. So if you're in between relationships right now, or if you're in a relatively new relationship right now, figure out your non negotiables, talk those through, and then learn how to agree to disagree or disagree peaceably, and you'll do yourself a whole lot of good. The next one is the controller. Controllers are usually individuals who either A, have not had a lot of control in their life previously, and so they use the ability to control others to get what they want and manipulate, specifically emotionally, in order to gain power, or B, individuals who have never felt they've had personal power. They are given it by a person who's a little more soft or a little more generous or a little more kind or a little more tolerant. And then they like the feeling and they get addicted to it, like you would cigarettes or pornography, or like you get addicted to food, or like you get addicted to negative feelings. They get addicted to powers of control. Now, people who get addicted to powers of control do have some rather unfriendly personality archetypes, including but not limited to. These are where your sociopaths often come from. These are where your psychopaths often come from. These are certainly where narcissists come from. So it's very rare that you meet a person who's coming into their controlling mechanism. Most likely, you'll see controlling behavior within the first 3 months of dating. Generally, because, that first month of dating, it's new, it's fresh, it's cool. And then by the second month, most people start to have what I call standards conversations. By the third month, a person who has a control mechanism in them is going to try and test those and see how serious you are about them. So usually by the end of month 3, you're gonna have a pretty good idea of whether or not you have someone who at least has the tendency or an active version of controlling behavior in relationships. The last negative love style is the victim. These are the people who take no personal responsibility whatsoever for previous relationship failures. These are also the people that will play the blame game a lot. They'll say something like, if I had better parents, and if my partner had done this, or if my kids would do that, or if my boss just knew this, or if somebody just saw this about me. Now, there's nothing wrong with having negative experiences where we say, I wish things had turned out differently. However, when it's more than 60% of the time that a person's talking about how things need to be different for them to be happy, or for them to be healthy, or for them to be kinder, or for them to pick up a check, and trust me, I've seen that one before, both personally and professionally, chances are you're dealing with somebody who is in the victim mentality and the victim love style. This is a person that you will never permanently please because they're addicted to being a victim. They're addicted to having extra attention and testing people's boundaries. This can be extremely difficult to deal with. All of these are negative or toxic love styles. They do exist, usually because of wounds that come from one of two places. Either the primary or first long-term, we'll call long-term anything lasting longer than 4 months, romantic relationship for the person, or in childhood, their main role models, usually of opposite gender, but sometimes of same, but more often than not of opposite gender, engaged in one of these behaviors themselves in showing love or not showing love. And so then it became a sense of normalcy. If you're dealing with one of these love styles or the toxic patterns associated with them, please feel free to reach out. Be more than happy to help you. We are still running the social reconnection special, $50 for first sessions, and this does include people who have encountered me in other methods other than YouTube. Please feel free to shoot a message to at PO Perception on Twitter or a direct message here on YouTube in the message box. Get back to you within 24 to 48 hours and we'll set something up. But until next time, keep your feet on the ground, your mind in the moment. Until next time, everybody.